To see you, my adjutant was fell informed.
Yeah, that's right, you hiccup.
What do we do?
Oh yeah, poor Blake's never seen a script. You're mine. It's always been tempting to take the character of Super Steve out of the ensemble cast and give him a moment of glory, kind of let him carry a plotline all by himself. We didn't intend for all the episodes of the Darn Good TV show to be their own genre of film, but it turned out that way, and of course you have to let Super Steve save the day and come flying in with his very own superhero movie. Can't remember how I came up with the concept of adding Clark Kent to this plotline, but it makes perfect sense with Super Steve's character. He thinks he's the greatest, and he's very childlike and innocent in his superhero world, so if someone shows up who seems a little bit cooler than he is, it's gonna upset him.
I don't like him, Sheila.
Plus, it's just way too tempting to give a character like Super Steve a midlife crisis.
All those years of academy training wasted.
When Sheila and Super Steve go to rescue this mysterious nut by the name of Clark Kent, they don't expect this guy who's really obsessed with antiques, or an antiquist. He's very shy and very preserved, but he gets really excited over things like the silver lining in the socks of his 1940 suit, or his vintage piano that he doesn't want anyone to touch.
He's a connoisseur of the arts, and vintage arts especially. He's kind of a thing out of the past, and he's quite a mystery to Super Steve, and to Sheila too. Quite the opposite of most of the nuts we've encountered thus far, who are more in your face.
This goes on for like 8 minutes, so.
We met Ryan Wishner at the West Coast Ragtime Festival, where he was a performer. And a few months after that, we tried making a silent short film with him called The Piano Tuner, which was a lot of fun, because who doesn't love getting a pie in the face, and making an absolute fool of your psychopathic self in the process. Ryan actually arranged the score for that movie, The Piano Tuner, writing original music wherever it was necessary, and performed it live in one take. And he had the opportunity to actually perform it live to the film at the Ragtime Festival the following year, when they aired our short film as one of the festival's performances. He's such an incredible musician, it's fun to see him do something like that. He cracked up outside the movie at the same minute that he cracks up inside the movie, even while playing the score live in front of tons of people. We wanted to add Ryan to the Darn Good universe, and it just seemed really natural to make him a Clark Kent type, because he's not short, not chubby, and not redheaded like Sheila supposes he'll be. After we'd known Ryan for a while, I remember asking him one time if he knew how to sing, and he said no, he'd never tried. A few days later, he sent me a recording of a first attempt, and he said he'd play piano along with himself.
All the girls I've known, and I've known some. Before I first met you, I was lonesome. And then you came inside.
That very recording of that first attempt is what's in the movie during the disguise montage. So you can imagine my surprise when I heard that first attempt at singing. Super Steve's story is almost true, but for me and Ryan, because every time I thought I knew all his secret superpowers, he'd accidentally and usually very shyly reveal another one. Drive me crazy. I wrote this episode not really knowing what I intended to do with it, because at that time I hadn't seen Sam Gerard, who plays Super Steve, in about 4 years. After we graduated high school, Sam went off to college, and we weren't really in touch for a while. Then out of the blue in 2020, I asked him if he'd ever want to be in another short film, just for fun.
Ho-ho! Get on my back!
He said he was willing, came over one afternoon, and it was really a neat experience. Sam hadn't been in a movie since 2015, when he last played the role of Super Steve in The Darn Good Escape. And the last shot he filmed in that movie was him leaping into the swimming pool. And we know that for certain because he destroyed his super suit in doing so we had to make sure that everything of his had been filmed before he did that. And then here we are 5 years later. The first thing we filmed for Super Darn chronologically was the opening scene on the porch. And someone said action, and suddenly, Super Steve was back.
Clark Kent? Come on, we're out of here. The escape is off.
Wait, what are you doing? Ryan and Sam met on the set, which is a first for our TV show, because the rest of us mostly grew up together. And watching the two of them get to know each other and really start to get along while their characters were not getting along at all was a really cool part of making this episode. You just can't get
You were cheating.
Yeah, or like he just says. Exactly.
Read my mind.
I don't know what you would think that Superman would be able to do.
Another landmark element of this episode is that we get much more of a glimpse into Sheila McCollum's dark past, to the point where in her nightmare we get an entire scene featuring one of her mysterious brothers. But we'll have to wait for the plot to thicken before we can get into the rest of that.
Steve? Is the door locked with a key?
Yeah.
This episode was originally going to take place in the one set of the safe house, and the story was going to stay contained there. And then in 2021, when we were starting to round out the rest of the TV show plot, we realized that we needed a further Tom story as well.
Yeah, we're all crazy. I mean, except for me.
We came up with the concept for a small comedic side plot, and James McCarthy, who plays Barking Steve, wrote the screenplay for it to kind of explore some of Tom's personal issues and how he might be adapting as he grows older amidst all these nuts. And then we kind of sewed that side plot into the footage that we'd filmed almost a year before and got some pickup shots so that the whole thing made sense. Plus we got to bring back the character of Georgia, which is always a lot of fun.
I am not, I'm different. Can't you hear my jingly keys? No, Georgia!
James came up with the concept of having Tom go a little stir-crazy by looking through the files of his adopted family of nuts. And I thought that was a really neat concept because you got to reminisce over some of the characters, but I also just kind of find it endearing that these nuts would literally hold on to their prison record files in a shoebox, almost as if it's a scrapbook.
Sorry, say it one more time.
Let's kill them.
The bad guys kind of take a little bit more of a center stage in this episode than they have in the past. The Commandant's a little bit more active in his evil ways.
A physically, mentally impaired individual, not physically.
The character of the adjutant in this episode is just kind of that nameless threat and someone that Super Steve can annihilate so he looks cool. But the darn good TV show has not seen the last of that adjutant.
You dirty rat! You killed the guy!
I wanted to stick with a very cliche superhero plot where the girl gets in trouble and the hero has to save her. Of course, with two superheroes, it's hard to figure out how to balance it so they're both heroes. And with Super Steve, you have a very wide range of genres and random superpowers that you can draw from. He's kind of a miscellaneous superhero, whatever comes to mind at the moment. And Clark happily remains a mystery, so he could probably do anything.
It's really funny trying to be the camera person for Det or Jimmy.
Wait, I'm gonna go from where you can't see me.
Cut.
When they have written a script, as in the side plot that we filmed recently for this episode, when they've written the script and then they're the actor and then you're asked to be the camera person, because they do this thing where they're like, okay, you do that, I do that, okay, that looks good, and then they go into their Barking Steve or Sheila character, which looks all dumb.
We just kind of listen to the door for a second, so just kind of... Perfect.
Clark can play the piano while you're gone. I'm gonna do that again.
There's some reactions for you. You're welcome. Now you don't have to do one take.
This is probably one of the most uproarious film shoots we've ever done, for especially the climax of this episode.
That was the most uninspired line I have ever heard.
I'll have Super Steve.
What did you say?
Cockent.
A lot of the time, me, Sam, and Ryan just ran around the house trying to find random stuff to do to fill up the two montages. There's way too many funny stories about this one, like when Sam took a warden mustache and put it on the neck of Blake's beer bottle and poor Blake didn't notice until he was drinking it and felt something fuzzy crawling up the neck of his bottle. Or the fact that Sam wasn't supposed to hit Ryan in the ear with a pie and decided that Ryan getting his chin in it was just not sufficient.
Ryan and Sam, what can I say about them? They're tall. Really tall. I kept getting in trouble for cutting off Sam and Ryan's heads because I'm just too short to film them. I think I stood on the back of the sofa the whole time that I was filming the Kurt and Blake stuff. Yeah, I know I was. Very nice. But you can stop posing because I'm filming.